In Truth and in Spirit World of Worship Fellowship. You could say iTiS World of Worship Fellowship. Today is Thursday. Thursday is the day we discuss the top stories of the week. What has made news around the world? What has made news around Uganda? What has made news around East Africa? And it's been quite an eventful week, but of course we don't have time to discuss everything in these 2 hours that we do between 6 and 8 p.m. Yeah, sometimes we just pick maybe 2 or 3 stories, so I'll just go with those. Maybe just to quickly run through what has been happening. In Kenya today, it's Independence Day. Yeah, so obviously we've discussed Uganda's independence, but now they are celebrating their own. I wonder whether they're like us or they are independent, more independent than us. But well, it is what it is. And then, of course, the presidency is still going around doing the tours, PDM monitoring tours, if you like, checking on progress of funds dispersed to different individuals. This week he has been in the Sabbath-day region and Karamoja. Yesterday he launched the High Altitude Training Center by, I think, Cheptegei or one of those guys. And then he said, we have not invested in sports because we had other priorities. We had infrastructure, we had security, we had education and health, immunization. But once those priorities are taken care of, we shall come to sports. So he says it's not because we don't want to invest in sports, but yeah, the priorities, sometimes you have to choose, all right? And then, of course, earlier this week, there was an opposition caucus in parliament. Basically, all opposition parties were there. I don't remember what they discussed, but I know they were represented apart from FDC, which didn't make it. FDC later on said they were never invited. Senyonyi said, I sent you I called you, you didn't pick. I sent you an SMS, you didn't respond. This is he's telling Patrick Amuria, boy. Petty if you ask me, but anyway. Yeah, but on the other hand, of course, Mpuuga and his comrades, Lubega Mukaku, Michael Mabike, and a few others, launched their own Democratic Alliance on Saturday. Was it Friday or Saturday? Mpuuga calls it a vehicle for uniting the opposition. All right. He says his plan is to reach out to all opposition parties and, so they try and join hands to remove the dictator, as they call it. He previously called NUPs hooligans and drug addicts, but then at the launch of his own Democratic Alliance, he invited Alien Skin, who we all know is a ghetto youth, and what he indulges in. Anyway, politics is funny like that. So does Mpuuga have any way to go really? Because how can you launch a Democratic Alliance to unite all opposition parties, but none of them actually show up? I think he only had 3 MPs, if at all, including himself and Wanika, of course, who is his number 2. But associating with political failures like Lubega Mukaku and all these guys, what is he really trying to do? Okay, so we'll talk about Mpuuga's new Democratic Alliance, and then of course the Syrian regime was toppled last week. Asad fled to Russia. That's after 24 years of rule, and that's 24 years of him, but also before that, 30 years of his father. So that's 54 years of the Assad family coming to an end. All stories of falling dictatorships are always the same. They hide, you find cars, you find wealth, you find bankers, you find all these things. Somehow all dictators read from the same script. But yes, so we'll talk about Assad, and then in our social topic this week, we'll talk about the Buganda Kingdom. Give her this one. We'll talk about the Buganda Kingdom, which banned the playing of music by Gravity Mutuju and Lil Puzzle. These guys, I don't even know them, by the way. I don't even know their music. But yeah, apparently the Buganda Kingdom said they have vulgar music and should not be played on BBS or CBS. Of course, what I want us to discuss is what constitutes vulgar music. Is it only vulgar when it's in a language you can understand? The Congolese have famously come here and sang their songs, which we've never understood, but we have danced along. All these rappers and R&B artists also usually have explicit lyrics, which even UCC never cares about. But somehow they play and we enjoy them. So should vulgarity be the only selling point of music? Can you actually do clean, nice music and people enjoy it? Or is vulgarity nowadays just like we know how sex sells? Is it a case of just selling what people want to hear? Giving them nudity and sex and all that. So, yeah, so that's what we're going to talk about today. But first, the Supreme Court yesterday decided a case and said civilians cannot be tried in court martials or military courts. The APDF Act specifically says it's for officers and men in their rank and file who either misbehave or come into or misuse the weapons they've been entrusted with. This comes at a very interesting time when Dr. Westdy himself is in a court martial. His lawyers called it a tribunal this week, and then there was an exchange with one of the lawyers. But basically, what the Supreme Court confirmed, which is what some of us already knew, is civilians shouldn't go to military courts because the penal code already provides for offenses, even if they're found with guns, because we have cases for murder, aggravated robbery, and all these things, which involve even use of weapons. So there's no need to involve civilians in military courts. Of course, curiously enough, the president also released a statement this morning on his Twitter account saying the court martials have been helpful. When there was case backlog in the courts, in the civilian courts, the court martials helped to arrest these criminals, in his own words, and then put them, either discipline them or release them if they are found innocent. So he upheld that court martials are still useful, and I think he called them daydreamers who want to remove them. So I don't know whether that was in response to the Supreme Court or generally the whole conversation around trying civilians in military courts. Anyway, none of us here is a lawyer. We can only speak about this as civilians, but at least based on the Supreme Court ruling, it seems to agree with many of the lawyers that civilians shouldn't be tried in military courts. Mukwana, you're the only one I have here, as we wait for Pedson and a few others. What do you have to say about this? Of course, the law can be used to argue for and against anything, so we cannot use strictly legal arguments for this one. Mukwana, are you there?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, what do you think about Supreme Court confirming that civilians shouldn't be tried in military courts at a time when we have basically in the military court and a few other civilians, including the recently released NUP supporters, some of whom are still in court and in jail?
Yeah, personally, that decision gives a ray of hope that even when we know that all the instruments of democracy in this country are under one arm, there are still individuals who are alive, because that's not a simple decision to take in this era. You see, I wouldn't mind being tried in a court martial. The only difference is that civilians have their own world. I don't know whether the military court also follows the civility of handling suspects, because what we know about them is that they are cruel. Order is order, which means somebody above can just tell them that one sentenced to death, and since it's an order, the court will not follow the right protocol. I want to applaud the Supreme Court for taking such a decision. It is a strong decision that has been taken. Of course, Besigye has a military background, so I don't think he's threatened by military court. The only problem is that the lawyers who are defending him as civilians, they have nothing to do with military. But we have always said all dictators are the same, and humanity never learns. They never, you see, once man feels he's on top of the game, he does not see himself outside of the game. At one time, I had a teacher in Kira College Butiki. When he suspected that you're talking to the secretary he loves, if you're not on government payroll, you lose your job that day. If you're on your government payroll, he'll do anything to transfer you. So he went beyond, including making fake transfer letters. But
Really?
one time it backfired. It is humanity that once somebody is on top and he has all the power, they do everything in impunity. To bring Besigye in a military court and his friend and the other guy that was, it is impunity. It is, thinking that nobody can do anything to me, so let me do what I want. It is absurd. We've talked about it. Many people have talked about it. We are just watching the script as it unfolds. I know the regime propagandists will say, no, the Asad thing cannot be here, the Libya thing cannot be here, the Weya thing cannot be here. But history is history. The trend, I see it's the same. Even if Supreme Court has showed that they can take a stand, but even that decision cannot change anything. Because recently, I think yesterday, President Museveni was justifying the reasons for Besigye to be tried in a military court. But he's not a lawyer. He's not studied law. He's a president. He should allow the other systems to work. But once he comes out like that, the rest will bow down. So, Chair, yes, there is a ray of hope, but it is really waning. Thank you.
Okay. Let me see if Nature can talk. Nature, can you talk?
Yes, I can.
What do you have to say about
Talk.
Besigye being tried in a military court?
I really I don't know. I don't have so much to say since I don't know. I'm not well versed with the topic, but according to Mukwana, the previous speaker, if he has a military background, he's not a normal civilian. So he should be tried in the military court.
But he retired. He retired. He's now a civilian. What do you mean he's not a normal civilian? No.
Whether he retired or not, he's not normal. He's not a normal civilian.
And so?
He is saying he's not an ordinary civilian. Probably let us change that word. Instead of normal, let us use ordinary.
Yeah, he's not an ordinary civilian. So he does not qualify for our court because he's not ordinary.
No, Nancha.
Since he has a military background.
So that he doesn't qualify based on the nature of the crimes, alleged crimes, or because of the person?
Based on his background.
So because he's a retired military man, it's possible he's trying to overthrow the government. It's actually true. And for that reason, we should disregard the constitution and just follow our feelings.
No, it is not disregarding the constitution. The fact is that his name is written in the books as a militant. Whether he is retired, that's why they don't call him just Besigye. He's a retired general. Therefore, he qualifies for the military.
Retired
you,
colonel.
Nanja.
Retired
So
colonel.
he's a retired colonel. Unless all of a sudden he's not a retired colonel, then he qualifies to be a civilian.
Okay, so if Besigye rapes a woman, because he's a retired colonel, he'll be taken to the court martial.
Yeah, because
According
he
to your
has
argument, then
that title. He has that title. He should live up to it.
if Besigye takes a loan and fails to pay it tomorrow, he should be taken to the military court because he's a former soldier. That's your argument, Brenda.
Yeah, he's a former soldier. So he's not a civilian. He's just
All
not
right,
an
thank you.
active member of the military, but he's a militant.
Okay, thank you. Nanchi agrees with the president that some people should be taken to the military court. Isaiah and Musazi, you're welcome. We're just discussing the issue of civilians being tried in the military court. The Supreme Court yesterday pronounced itself on the matter. Before it, a certain soldier appealed. I think he had been sentenced to death in the regional court martial. He appealed to the general court martial in Makinde. It upheld the sentence. And then for some reason, decisions of the court martial used to be taken to the civilian courts for court of appeal and so on and so forth. So yesterday, the Supreme Court said, first of all, matters of the court martial are independent of the judiciary. So cases cannot be brought into the judiciary system for either appeal or whatever it is. All right. And then they also upheld that civilians shouldn't be tried in military courts, which is where you found us discussing. Brenda agrees that it should really depend on the kind of person who's suspected. In the case of Besigye is not an ordinary individual, so he should be subjected to the military courts. That's what Brenda says. On the other hand, Mukwana thinks it's not a good idea to try civilians in military courts, especially when crimes are already provided for in the civilian courts. What do you think, Isaiah? That's if you're even able to talk where you are.
The Besigye is being tried in the military court because of two reasons. Number one, he was a soldier, and his departure was due to political reasons. That is why he left. And as far as the military interpretation of retirement is concerned, it is reserve force. So as far as the military people are concerned, once a soldier, always a soldier. But you can be relieved from your duties. In other words, you are not retired from the military, you are relieved from the duties. So the argument of the court martial is that we are dealing with our kind in Besigye. So the argument that Besigye is no longer a soldier is political. That is one. Two, Besigye lost a brother. But that brother was involved in that arms business. Besigye was linked to Jamil Mukulu. Besigye has made pronouncements that the ballot is not the way to go. We must use other means. One of the means that he has suggested was to call all the citizens of Uganda, and then we riot against this government until we overthrow it. And personally on that, for people like me who would want to see some changes in Uganda, I agreed with him, though I was one of the people who was not willing to go and stand with him on the streets. But for me, I agreed with the solution. The only solution, if you want, because as far as Ugandan politicians are concerned, the problem of Uganda is Museveni. That bit we do not agree. But on the bit of change, bringing change in Uganda, I agree with his approach of calling all Ugandans. We stand on the streets until this sitting government leaves us. It has happened elsewhere. It can still happen in Uganda. Unfortunately, Ugandans are not that kind that can sustain a protest or a riot until the government is overthrown. We are so much divided. We are 90% Bantu people, so we don't have that courage, unfortunately. So Besigye has made those pronouncements. Now that's the first reason as to why Besigye is being tried in the court martial, and I really don't see any problem him being tried in the court martial. My only problem was the definition of a court martial. Is it a court? If it is a court, which kind of court? In the court martial, do we deal with the law? Yes. Using which legal code? Because Lukwago to defend Besigye in a court martial is almost a contradiction. I've been watching those proceedings and I have noticed that they are speaking different languages. The generals sit there and listen to Lukwago and look at him, and then they only make one statement, and then the court is closed. So essentially, Mr. Moderator, the court martial is not about the law as we know it. It might be having its own laws. And I wish, for purposes of citizens' understanding, I wish the UPDF teaches us what a court martial is, how it works, which laws does it follow, etc., etc.
The Supreme Court yesterday answered that question, Isaiah. They said the UPDF Act is purely for the army and everybody in their rank and file. That's why even their cases cannot be appealed in the civilian courts. They are basically independent of the judiciary. Okay, that's why they said civilians cannot be tried in such a court because its decisions are not binding on the other courts in terms of process appeals and things like that. So they equated it to a disciplinary committee of a high school or a university, where as a student you can be taken and certain things are, certain punishments are administered. In cases where those punishments are not consistent with the bigger law, which is the Constitution, then they are null and void. So the supreme law still stands, it's the Constitution.
So exactly, that is my point. So therefore, the court martial is not a court in the context of the court, but
It is not.
It is a military tribunal.
That's what Kiza Aaron called them, and they protested. I think you saw that clip.
Yeah, but
Essentially they are tribunal. They are tribunal.
Yeah, it is a military tribunal. So and I think that really makes sense because I was wondering what kind of court it is. It's not a court, it's a military tribunal. And yeah, Besigye fits there, number one. Number two, I don't know how true it is that he was found with a pistol or with a gun. Anyone who is found with a gun must appear in that tribunal for me. Then the UPDF
the penal code also has a process for that. People found with guns, civilians found with guns, or involved in armed robberies, aggravated robbery, and things like that. Murder. The penal code also has those processes. So I don't know why it must be the UPDF court martial to try them.
The penal code must tell us to whom do the weapons belong to. Because
so
if we
Isaiah. Okay.
Bob, are you giving information or
yes, I was just
are you answering Isaiah's question?
Yes, I was just giving him an example of what he's saying, that this, I mean, just confirming with you that definitely we've had cases before. We know the foot soldiers. Okay, they are called soldiers. I don't know whether that's the thing that takes them to also military court. We know Jamiru Mukulu, who is a really known rebel. We know he was actually tried in a more civilian court. So I think there's a witch hunt for BCG, and the army is doing this in a wrong way. So as you've indicated, guys, that this is supposed to try soldiers. It's supposed to be a court martial for soldiers. And but they will try to plant guns. When they want to take Bobby Wine in a court martial, they planted guns. So it is all a sham. Maybe BCG could be guilty.
Information
Okay.
So moderator, BCG is not a civilian. How
about the NUP supporters who were taken to the court martial?
Which NUP supporters were taken to a court martial?
The Olivia Lutayas and the others.
Yes, their cases were that they were found with weapons that threatened the security of the Ugandans. So that's why I was asking you, to whom do these weapons belong to? Because when you say that if a civilian is found with a gun, there is a penal code process. The military looks at its weapon. Whoever has that weapon,
Isaiah,
that tribunal.
Isaiah. But then now, how do you justify? Because Jamil Mukulu was not taken to the court martial yet, for him as a rebel.
Well, I don't know why Jamil Mukulu was not taken. I am insisting on the fact that if you tamper with, because the same reason as to why some of the NUPists are still putting on the red berets. There are some inconsistencies in Uganda, but those inconsistencies are caused by my second point, which you guys are not letting me make.
You make it.
Yes, the second reason as to why BCG is being treated the way it's treated is political. It is political. I think BCG has refused, together with his clique in the government, they have refused to work with the government like other opposition leaders do. So that is why he's being tortured. BCG is being treated the way he was treated the first time. You remember when was it 2006 when he came from jail? Which election was
when
that?
he was nominated from jail?
2005.
Exactly. So the same thing has happened because BCG is being stubborn. He has refused. BCG and his wife, they have already made connections from the Westerners who are going to help him. Of course, Kyagulanyi and who else? I think it's only Kyagulanyi.
But Mpuuga is now a leader of an opposition faction.
Yeah, sure. Mpuuga was for yesterday. Let us first leave Mpuuga out, because Mpuuga was for yesterday. Yes, I'm talking about those who have been in existence. Kyagulanyi, we all know Kyagulanyi is part of the government, really. It is only the Bobs who still insist that Kyagulanyi is an opposition leader. So you can look at the treatment that is given to Kyagulanyi and that is given to BCG, and then you get to know. So it is political. They want to hold him there. I don't know whether the registration of PFF will succeed, but if it does succeed, then BCG will get out like he got out in 2005 during the 2006 election.
Do you think he's coming back on the ballot?
Yes, he will, if PFF is registered. Thank you, moderator.
Okay, thank you. Bob, now you come in and make your point. Previously, you are not giving information. What notice? Okay, Bob is busy, I guess. Pedson, on this issue, as we move to... What do you have to say in brief?
There's really nothing much. Me, you know, our leader is the president is a former rebel leader, and you guys, there's something that if we're here, but if let's say if I ever become the president of this country, my thinking will be biased towards how I have been brought up or how I've been trained. And that would be that is because of the influence of what your background has on you, is how you really act. So the president that we have is doing that because of his background. You remember the times when he used to go to Ududa in an army uniform with a gun. Now he thinks in a martial way. That's how he is, and as politics aside and all that, so he would try to use some of these things, one, to scare, and then times when he's annoyed, is not like the previous leaders who would kill any person opposing them, but he will express his anger in such forms. So really, me, I think this is just portraying the present
there are no
character.
surprises here.
Yeah, that is him. As in,
Okay.
that is him. You know, whenever he wants to stretch like a serious point, he comes in an army uniform, chest pounding, telling you that this is the Kaguta's son. Don't mess around. You get? So that is just it. Yes, such things. So it is just him, and it's understandable, because you see, that is all he knows. All he knows is a gun, and his thinking is around there.
Okay, thanks, Peterson, for saving us time. Let's go to the next one. Since you have the microphone, let me start with you. The issue of Mpuuga and his colleagues. Okay, first of all, there was an opposition caucus meeting in Parliament this week, to which FDC was not invited. Remember that statement they released in solidarity with BCJ. FDC was conspicuously absent. The interesting thing for me was when Lukwago was signing, he signed as FDC/PPP. PPF, I mean. I found that interesting. Anyway, but 2 days before that, Mpuuga and these political failures, Lubega Mukaku, Michael Mabika, and others had created I don't know whether it's a political party or a movement or whatever it is.
Hello?
Called the
Hello?
Democratic Alliance. They've called theirs DA.
Hello?
But remember in I think 2000.
Jet.
That's the moderator.
Sorry?
Jet, we can't hear you.
I was not hearing
Oh, really?
anything.
I can hear you
But
guys.
me,
How
I was
come? Can you hear me now?
hearing you.
I'm an answer, my mother. You leave these ones. Anyway, I'm talking about, I don't know why you lost me, but I was talking about the Democratic Alliance by Mpuuga and his political failures, Lubega Mukaku, Michael Mabika, and others. And why Mpuuga, in his claim of uniting the opposition, there was actually, apart from Jema, there was no other political party represented at that function. So let's just talk about the opposition dynamics. But Mpuuga, is Mpuuga really credible? For me, he has vibes of Mama Mbabas, those gentlemanly, eloquent guys, but no political appeal, no charisma. What do you think, Peterson?
You summed it. His politics cannot work. Okay, his character cannot work in Uganda. Uganda, we need politicians like VSJ who can roll their sleeves and touch in the mud. And that is the kind of person that people need. In fact, Bobi Wine has disappointed people, because Bobi Wine's character and personality and appearance, people thought that he's going to be that person where we'll be on the streets demonstrating, we'll be banging the table. That is the kind of a leader that Ugandans want, because you see, it is the same. The person that we're opposing is also like that. We are not opposing a smart politician who is in a suit. We're opposing a leader who can also fight in the mud. So Mpuuga, these are just people to fill the spaces of opposition and also to stay relevant, that they're doing something, but there's nothing substantial. there's nothing of substance that is going to do or is going to bring on the table. And I can tell you, if Mpuuga stands, he will get his 0.0 something percent. But then also on the issue of failure to invite Amuriat, Senyonyi said that he called Amuriat 3 times, and Amuriat refused to pick, and he was not even returning the call. So
but is that how you communicate between political parties? You call people and WhatsApp them. It's me who doesn't understand this.
We are in a .com. And by the way, this is one thing that first of all, Senyonyi is a .com person. The formality of writing, headed paper, when you have WhatsApp and you can reach, because the meeting maybe was on short notice. Now, by the time you write a letter, then you deliver it, then you do what? Then the meeting is maybe in 2 days. How about if I call someone and then the person comes? Because all the people who came, were they given formal communication or they are called on phone? That is also another thing that we have to understand. We need to, Muntu has to tell us if you was given a letter or if you was called. So Katoyo it's just Ntondo.
Okay, thanks, Peterson. Isaiah, since your mic is on, let me also finish with you and then I'll go to...
But Papa.
Okay, Nancha, my mother, yes.
It is just incompetence. You can type a letter in a few minutes, envelope it, put the necessary things, and then send it.
You can even email it to the official email address of the party. I'm sure there's always someone to read.
Exactly.
Thank you, Nancha, person. And then you follow up with a phone call if necessary. But you can't start with a phone call and say, I can't reach you.
Exactly.
Isaiah, you switched off your mic. Are you looking for Pirao?
I think
We are talking opposition dynamics, but also Mpuuga and his TDA, which he prefers to call DA.
First of all, it is not fair to call Mabike and Mukaku and
Bwanika.
No. It is always Mabike, Mukaku, and Lubowa.
Failed politicians.
It is not fair to call them failed politicians. They are not failed politicians. They are actually they are practicing politicians. It was Mukaku's brains and Mabike and his team that made the people power and NUP what it is or what it was. I don't consider that a failure. You are not a political failure if you are a kingmaker in the field. Everyone who is involved in politics will understand the usefulness of people like Mukaku and Mabike. So you are not also a political success just because you are running a political office. If you know who Mukaku is, you can't compare him with Rutamaguzi Semakula. But Rutamaguzi Semakula has an office, has a political office. So we should stop this tendency of assuming that whoever is voted into power, especially with the past experience that we have had of 2021 elections, where people were directed that Wola Bambulela Wotikinga. You can't call these Wola Bambulela Wotikinga MPs of NUP a political success at the expense of people like Mabike and Mukaku, who have been in the trenches of politics. There is a young man there called Bijirwa Moses. Bijirwa is ranks second to Besigye of Ugandans who have been arrested for political reasons in Uganda. Besigye has been arrested almost 80 times, if not 90, and Bijirwa ranks second of political prisoners. His number is almost 45 times that he has been arrested. So you can't call the Bijirwa a political failure. No, he's not. He's a fighter and he's fighting. Well, that's how you do politics. You have to understand.
Okay, that's a good point.
Yes,
that's a good point you made.
You just have to understand
because I saw some criticism of these guys saying we made Chagulanyi, and then someone saying if you made Chagulanyi, can't you make yourself? Why do you have to make others? Make yourself. I don't know if so. I don't know who was arguing like that. I've forgotten who, but I saw that argument somewhere.
It was a lazy argument. It was a lazy argument because Museveni will tell you how much money he has spent on Abana Babalwanyi. The communication is very simple. Museveni was also made by those foreign soldiers. So they are kingpins and they are makers of those kingpins by all means. So you can't call the makers of kingpins or kings that they are failures in the field. That's number one. Number two, then I think Besigye and Museveni sold to Ugandans a narrative of rebellion and rebellism. That narrative was sold to Ugandans by Besigye and Museveni. And I am telling you guys, rebels are selling to us a rebel mindset. And moderator, this is sad. It is very sad. Why am I saying this? Because let's go back to Samuel Gerere. Samuel Gerere was the birth of people like Mugisha Muntu, of people like Winnie Chiza, of people like Matthias Mpuuga, of course, diplomatic leaders. But because Ugandans were still in that paranoia of Twarwana, etc., they chose Museveni because the threats were Semogere will not command any army general. And of course, the army generals were also warning Ugandans. We don't care who wins, but make sure it is a fellow soldier. Now, gentlemen, this whole narrative of twagala mulwanyi, twagala omuntu ajja kukuba yekalakase, should stop. We should move on. We should get past this rebellism. We should heal. Uganda should heal from fights and fighting. And then we go to the reasoning way of politics. This is why we need many Mugisha Muntus, many Matthias Mpuugas. We need many Winnie Chizas, many such. And few Miriam Matembes, few Besigye's, few, who is this other woman of Rukunjiri? This one who
Ingrid now.
Few Ingrids, we need to cut on those numbers. And then we raise on the numbers of the Mugisha Muntus, the couth politicians, the diplomats. And I can tell you, moderator, Museveni shouldn't only be fought on streets. He should also be fought diplomatically, institutionally. I mean, logically. Look at the amendments that Mpuuga brought into the parliament. We need to fight this man constitutionally because that is what the Western countries that are bigger than us are looking at. For them, they don't see any rebel because they know if it necessitates fighting him, he cannot stay on power. That is why President Museveni loves the vote. Why? Because it sanitizes his dictatorship, his rebellism. It sanitizes that. Now, we need diplomatic leaders to deal with the sanitizing process of this rebel leader. You don't need people on the streets. We shall stay on the streets forever. Because once you build, there's a rebel who came from the bush and took over power. We want another rebel of the street to overthrow another rebel and install what? Another rebel. So, gentlemen, let us try to thank God that people like Mpuuga are in the field. People like Mugisha Muntu, those that we don't support, are in the field. Thank you, moderator.
Thank you. Nicholas, are you still there, Professor?
Yes, Chair. I'm
Yes,
here.
Jet. I need
Okay,
to go.
Nicholas, let me
I
give
may
Bob
not
a
be able
chance
to
because I know he's on and off. Bob, you go. Now, I don't know which
Yeah,
topic you're going
so
to start with because we moved on from the other one.
no, I'm just going to comment on this one. I'm not going to go
Okay.
back.
Mm.
And for me, my comment is just one. I probably will not agree with Isaiah bringing in Mpuuga in the picture for now, in the people that he's considering as, a politician.
How about the idea of diplomatic politics? I think that's the
Yeah.
big idea. That's the big
Why?
point
And I want to give my reason.
here.
And I'm not even. I mean, I'm really bashing both sides. The side of Mpuuga, the side of Bobby Wine, the side. Because this is the politics we need is the politics like that of Mugisha Muntu. I would agree. The politics of Bobby Wine and his group, they need to learn. Mpuuga and his group need to learn. The Mukakos, this is what they need to learn. In this fight with a dictator, we need everyone. For us who are on the opposing side, we need everyone, even the one we see as a ball. We need them. And so when you get that microphone and the first thing you're talking about is kuvuma the other group, you refer to them as the, tepamanyi bibakola, you already, it looks like you are fighting for that space of also being in the opposition. You're fighting for that small space, but you need everyone. If Bobi Wine goes kukatuti yako, natandika okuvumirira Mpuuga, natandika okuvumira Bamukaku and the likes. Naye aba akoze ensobi. Because no one is perfect. You need a person like Mugisha Muntu who will keep quiet and make his statement general. This is where we need to focus on the future. And he says, okay, let's plan for Museveni. If he goes, what is going to happen? These are the discussions we need to have, not so and so Muyaga, not so and so, as labeled as ya baby tano. No. We need everyone on board. We need the Mukakus. We need everyone. So for me, this is if I was to advise these individuals, I would tell them to focus on mainly the way forward and not the infights. Okay, because then we need everyone to remove this guy. And when we fight, it just brings divisions. Someone may comment that these divisions are brought by the guy himself, divide and rule. So this is what these guys need to realize and kind of move away from his game. They shouldn't play his game. Look at NRM. They will. We remember when we had issues of that new party which the Sun was trying to bring up. Bali batandise okuleeta obukubagano, and Museveni saw it that it was going to split them. So he found a way of neutralizing it. NRM talks the same language. You rarely hear them bashing each other, but this is what the opposition is doing. They're bashing each other. So for me, that would be my comment. All those sides are to blame. Let them focus on uniting and moving together, putting aside their differences and speak with one voice, or everyone concentrate on the future, but don't fight each other.
Thank you, Bob. Mukwan, I'm back to you. There's this thing, I don't know, I think it's mainly in the opposition. Every time you disagree with somebody, you create a new party. ANT was formed out of FDC. Of course, DP guys moved to NUP. Now they've disagreed in NUP. Now they are forming DA. Then basically disagreed with FDC's formed PPF. I mean, what is this thing and starting political movements every time you disagree with somebody? Nicholas, you start from that point.
Thank you, Chair. When you talk about politics of diplomacy and you don't mention Norbert Mao, then I wonder in which country you are in. I don't see diplomacy in Mpuuga. I don't know who said that when a fool keeps quiet is considered wise. In Mpuuga, I see a coward. So he's a coward, but also mischievous, always looking for opportunities to maneuver the opportunities he cannot create. He rides on the backs of others. In fact, his party is going to expose his real failure. This whole saga of the 500 million put Mpuuga bare. whatever he's doing, you see, is just on try and error. He is not even confident of himself. This saga made me realize that even speaking very good English does not necessarily mean that you are intelligent. You can articulate issues either out of the so many books you've read, but when you even have no idea of the things you're talking about. So Mpuuga, just imagine his best friend, Bwanika, has a party, People's Development Party. Why didn't he join him and they make that one better? You know, Mpuuga should be out of the discussion. I think he's finished. Let's wait for 2026 and see if we shall be talking about Mpuuga. He is out of the picture. But for Pastor Isaiah to elevate Mpuuga to that level, it beats my understanding. And then to say that it's Besigye and Museveni that brought rebellion is also another way of wanting to clean his father. Besigye did not bring rebellion. If he did, Museveni would not be the president. It is Museveni who brought rebellion. And President Museveni loves rebellion a lot because he harvests from it. Any politician, I'm surprised people are still talking about Kyagulanyi. Kyagulanyi is a wise man. If he continued with that kind of politics, he would be normal, and many people would be normal. To me, that was wisdom. You cannot challenge President Museveni to violence. You cannot. That's where his strength is. And it's one of the reasons he keeps looking for where can he create violence. To me, it is over now that I'm beginning to think that probably the Besigye is not the person I've been thinking he is. Because he had gone out of the scene and all of a sudden the government is arresting him, trying to make him make news. And I think Pastor Isaiah should agree with me that Besigye is more of NRM than you think Kyagulanyi is. Kyagulanyi isn't. For the first time, I'm beginning to think that fabricated story of we found him in Kenya with the gun, is want to top up government, and is just a way of making him popular and probably overshadow Bobi Wine. That's because I don't see him anywhere. He was off completely. He has no party. I don't see him really being a thorn in the flesh to this government. Not anywhere. Not anywhere. But the government itself is bringing him up to sell him to the people as a man who is on the opposition. He's not. So,
thank you, Mukwana.
Yeah, you want to look at this thing deeply. It is the government trying to lift Besigye. He was nowhere. He had gone. No party, no follower. You remember the other time when he was trying to plant bananas in the road? Not even borders. Ofono Pondo called him a lone wolf. But now government goes after him to make him look like a big figure. I'm thinking that man with the first family, they are really working together. Kyagulanyi, no, that young man is intelligent. He discovered he cannot handle Museveni in a violence and demonstration, so he decided to fight the way he's fighting. So we cannot blame him in that way. Lastly, Chair, why are people resorting to rebellion? That seed has been sowed. It has been sowed by NRM. The president himself vowed and said, by 2021, there will be no opposition. And so there are many masquerading opposition people who are not opposition. And the intention is to go there, disorganize, and move on. It is a move. It's not the people, it's the move from NRM. Chair, let me end here for now.
Thank you, Dr. Nicholas Mukwana. Let me allow Isaiah to respond to that point. I found it very interesting. Isaiah, I think you're the one who made the point that Besigye has refused to comply with government's demands. Mukwan, on the other hand, thinks it is actually the government creating this guy to topple Kyagulanyi. What do you have to respond? Very briefly.
Moderator, there was a time when Besigye was the opposition leader, and those who have been in Uganda, unlike Dr. Mukwana, do understand what was happening in Uganda. And there has been a time when Kyagulanyi is the opposition leader, and those who have been in Uganda, unlike Dr. Mukwana, know what is happening in Uganda. In the real opposition of Kyagulanyi vis-a-vis of that fake opposition of Besigye. So really, I won't waste time on that. Ugandans can tell us who is the opposition.
Kyle, thank you very much, Isaiah. Let me come to you. I want us to discuss the fall of Assad in Syria. I was just trying to read up on this young man's history. He's a young man anyway. You know, his father ruled for 30 years. And then I think his brother was supposed to take over, but he died. This guy was in London studying to become a dentist. Peterson, are you there? So he was called back home, chap, come, take over the reins. So, and then he has done 24 years. It's interesting that he survived the Arab Spring of 2011. You remember that move in the Arab world? He survived that, but of course, since then it's been, war from every side until finally he was deposed in just less than a week. All his soldiers seem to have disappeared. I don't know to where. And then Russia gave him asylum. It's quite interesting because he was seen as a strong man. And like I said in the introduction, all dictators seem to follow the same script. They have all these palatial homes, they have cars, they have gold, all sorts of things. Yeah, but let's just talk about the fall of Assad. Edson is probably not here. Where do I go first? Bob, can you talk? And of course, you cannot discount Israel in this whole mix. Yes, Bob.
I've really not followed keenly this Assad story, but I mean, I'll just make a statement the same that you've made. This is something we have seen. I'm not surprised. It's a repeated script. Monuments being destroyed, dictators build all these big monuments, sculptures for themselves, depicting them as mighty in their cities. Then the day they fall, everyone is celebrating. Everyone is like, and you're like, oh, people are just waiting for this moment. They couldn't wait. So it is just something that has to be of an example to other leaders who are trying to have this dictatorial kind of way of leading and trying to enthrone their sons and all these things. It ends, as people say, it will end in tears, whichever way you want to look at it. You can lead your people. It's just being selfish. These leaders are really, really selfish. And in the end result is, we've seen, is not good. And I can't leave that without commenting on what we know at home here. Many people make comments, no, things cannot be like that for Uganda. Museveni is different, but it is going to end in tears even here. The monuments that have been built, buildings will be destroyed, people will dance on the street. It's the same script over and over. They don't learn, unfortunately. Cling on power, and they have these people who support them. You try to talk about them, people come on, oh, why are you saying that? The guy is intelligent. The guy is, how can he have ruled for all these years if he's not intelligent? My friend, it's being selfish, and the end result is not good, always good. So yeah, for me, it's the same story all around. Yeah.
Thank you, Bob. Peter, are you back? It's also interesting that the guys who toppled Assad are classified as international terrorists by the US and many other countries. So it's interesting to see how they're going to work with the government, which they branded as terrorists. Some, of course, think they're sponsored by by the CIA on one hand. Okay, I don't have anybody I'm talking. But Isaiah, are you there? how much was the Iran and Russia factor in the fall of Assad? And by that I mean, of course, Russia was preoccupied with its own war with Ukraine. Iran also is busy bickering with Israel. And of course, Israel is the kind of guy who doesn't give up. So they were hammering Syria on one side. So how much is the Iran and Russia factor, the contribution
Yes.
to Assad?
Thank you, moderator. And before I go to that question of yours, let's first establish this, that what was happening in Syria was not party dominance, but it was family dominance. It was a family rule of 54 years. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I don't care who you are, but 54 years is a very long time for a family rule. It was a family rule. Now, there are many countries on planet Earth that are suffering the same. North Korea has the same problem of family rule. And most of the Saudi Arabian countries, or if actually most of the Middle East countries, are suffering the same family rule. In Africa, I don't think we have witnessed something like that, of a 54-year family rule. We don't have it in Uganda, such a long time of a family rule. The father 30, the son 24 years. That was quite a number. So we congratulate Syria, not the Syrians. We just congratulate Syria, if anyone can understand the difference, for surviving the family rule. But moderator, the international field is also suffering and has been suffering for a very long time. Party rule. Okay. If you start here from Africa, there are many African countries that suffered long periods and times of party rules. When you go to the Western world, there are many countries, the US inclusive, that are also suffering party rules. The so-called democracy of the United States is a two-party dictatorship for over 200 years. But you see, US is always right, and other countries are always wrong. That is rule number one of discussing these matters. Now,
If US is wrong, take rule number one.
Yes, if US is wrong, then refer to rule number one. US is always what? Right.
Right.
Good. So anyway, let's go back to your question. Before we ask how Assad regime failed, we must ask the question, how did it survive since 2011? Because Assad has been in power for 24 years.
Arab Spring.
Yes, Assad has been in power for 24 years. And he has had those rebels for the past 13 years. In other words, out of the 24 years, he has ruled 13 years with rebels in his country. And he had parts where he could not go, which rebels owned. And how was that possible? It was possible for two reasons. Number one, Russia. Number two, United States. United States, and then when the Israel and Gaza war began, all of a sudden, do you remember that it was all of a sudden that Israel started attacking the Hezbollah in Lebanon? But do you remember that the trigger of Hezbollah being attacked was the noise that Iran was making? Why was Iran making noise? Iran was making noise because it knew that they were targeting it. But how did Assad survive for those 13 years. It was because of the help of the Russians and the Hezbollah. When the Hezbollah were attacked in Lebanon, they went back to fight for their country and their position in Lebanon, and then Assad got exposed. Why didn't Russia help? Russia was busy fighting and bombing Ukraine because he has no time. He knows that Trump will call them on the table of negotiation, and for you to negotiate, you must have the upper hand. So while Russia was busy and the Lebanon were also made busy, so that Assad could be overthrown, dropping the influence of Russia in Syria and the influence of Iran in Syria. The Middle East is filled, even to date, is filled with dictators. But Assad has been criticized as the worst dictator and the only remaining standing dictator. All others died.
Okay, the Middle East is full of family rule, by the way.
Exactly. But why is Syria special? Syria is special because Russia has got there 8 bases. 8 bases. And America was denied 1. Why is Syria special? Syria is special because Iran is interested in Syria. Turkey, the veranda member of NATO, Turkey has interest, and actually it was supporting most of some of the rebel groups there, especially that of free Syria. And Turkey, Erdogan, is together with the Western world. The interest of the Iranians in Syria is religious. I don't know whether they support the Shia or the what. I've forgotten the group they support. They wanted that to be sitting. Now that Syria is dealt with, because it's dealt with, okumanya America bananfusi, Bobo bananfusi, because Bob is the American here. The hypocrisy of the Americans. By the way, one of the things I've learned from Americans is that whenever you want something, you can even work with those you are hunting. The label leader that took over Syria is a former Al-Qaeda, wanted by the CIA, by the way, with the ransom of is it called a ransom of $10 million? Yeah. But have you heard the United States make any statement about the Al-Qaeda taking over? And we're not surprised because we know that
They say that he left. They say that he left ISIS and he reformed.
He didn't leave. He broke off. He started another branch. Does the CIA forgive you because you left CIA? You left Al-Qaeda?
Era katomula n'enyambala yakyuka takyayambala biri ebya Bin Laden.
By the way, akyaliko wanted omutwe gwo gukyabanjibwa bagwagala million 10.
Yeah, but the guys did not make any statement. Why? Because their interest was defeating Russia in Syria and Iran. They will deal with that problem later. We all know that they are the ones who trained Bin Laden and later killed him. Ladies and gentlemen, Americans are warmongers. They are warmongers because now the Syrians are celebrating. I don't know what they are celebrating. How is that Al-Qaeda guy going to consolidate all these parties? Because whether you want
the Christians.
Whether you want it or not, once Russia settles, it is also going to look for another rebel group to support. Because the idea of Israel and America is that once we have Syria, we can now attack Iran. Meanwhile, over 200,000 soldiers ran to Iraq. Assad is still a young man. Won't he look for an ally to come back? And then Syria turns out into another Libya? Thank you, moderator.
Thank you. Who wants to say something about Syria before we go into our social topic?
I'm going to. Isaiah, of course, has finished the war part, but the story of Syria relates somehow with a certain African country. Syria, the father of Assad was a beloved leader, and who handed over power to his son. And Isaiah said that the 24 years have been a really a mess. So when I was looking at that story, my mind was just, oh God help us, because something that has happened in Syria, and actually even I was just
God help us
in
in Africa or in a specific.
in Africa, because did you
From a
see the
natural worship.
demonstration?
Right.
Did you see the demonstrations in Nairobi? Was it yesterday? Where people are rioting, Ruto must go. Now, the thing, and then also yesterday, Ghana was voting, and I want to just summarize my statement like this. In Uganda, we had a chance where if our president loved this country and he had maybe handed over power, let's say in 2006, would have become like Ghana, because also Ghana was had problems where there's a coup almost every year. Ghana used to have a coup. One of the greatest leaders that we consider to be the greatest leaders in Africa, Kwame Nkrumah, did not even die in Ghana. He died in exile. But then J.J. Rawlings comes in a coup and organizes a country. After 2 terms, the guy leaves. Now you see in Ghana, they are holding peaceful elections. I think the last coup was the one of J.J. Rawlings. And you see a country that is stable. Then I looked at this country here where there's a succession plan. The mess that such a plan can cause to a country. Then I said, now we just have to pray to God to help us.
I know that country.
Ekirungi tutandikira mu term limits tuzikomyawo kyekirungi.
Mwebani sebo.
Anyway, wangi
Mwebani abakomyawo tamu.
Ngawe muzikomyawo, ngawe mwazikomyawo, bwe musobola ozikomyawo era bwe musobola ozijjawo.
No, we are going to have a strong constitution by the way. Anyway, njagala kwogerako gundi, njagala kwogerako ku lutalo luno olw'omusiria. Dakiika emu kituufu. Nze ndowoozaamu nti it is tactical okuva e Russia, kubanga kisobola okubeera nga babadde bamwagala ku front zonna. Bw'oba otunudde, Russia is on front in Africa. Russia bamuyingiridde awo. Palestine tagiyambye, talina nnyo kyakoze kubanga talina kyasobola kukolawo. Muli wala ate tebali ba powerful or strong allies aba Russia. So bayinza okuba nga babadde awo nga baagala kumutwalirawo. Nina engeri gye neetegerezaamu olutalo lwa Israel, engeri gy'abazannyezannyeemu. Atandika ng'omwana asambasamba ebintu, bannanga akaana ako, kumbe koonoonye, taata naye ajja n'omugga amaliriza pum. Then ekibuuzo kye njagala okubuuza eri mmwe munyambeko is how come nti mu Syria mubaddemu Abamerika balina paati batwala n'amafuta, Turkey erina paati etwala amafuta oba ebyobugagga, Russia eri ne Bashar, Hezbollah erina gundi yaayo, waliwo n'akabinja akalala oba kava Iraq oba kavaawa. And this has been left eri nga like bakirekedde ensi yonna teri akyogerako. Eggwanga eryo ekyo mukitegeera mutya? Like I want to understand this kind of thing. Kibajja ne oli ajja n'afugira wano, nono n'afugira wano, nono n'afugira wano. Don't we have that power? Oba Abarussia tebalina eyo power, oba Aba Iran ne bagamba bugambe nti kati tukube Israel. oba naffe tusule busuzi nga bwe biri. Somebody to help understand that.
Dr. Mukwana yamba munakyalo. Mudaika emu.
Wanyu moderator?
Yamba munakyalo.
Simutegedde agambye atya?
Yabadde togoberera.
Simugoberedde.
Moderator.
Isaiah yamba munakyalo.
Munnakyala atunulire Congo, bw'anaatunulira Congo n'agitegera ekibuzo kye kijja kuddibwamu. Kasita mutuuka mu nsi erimu ebyobugagga nga mwenna muli b'amaanyi. Mukola endagaano etali mpandiike, tontabaala nange sijja kutabaala, buli omu asike wuwe. Buli omu asike ekikye agende. Omunafu ajja gwe tuba twegatta tukube. Kyova olaba Rwanda ne Uganda bwe baatwalayo omutwe baasibira mu kkooti nga balina okusasula bye babba e Congo. Naye nze moderator.
Ng'omwanguyiza. Webale nnyo.
Ebirala naabireeta ku Mande.
Ebirala bya Mande. Kanzireyo wa Dr. Mukwana. Dr. Mukwana, tugende ku social topic yaffe.
Yes,
This
sir.
week, the Katikiro came out and said tayagala music wa Gravity Omutujju and olugaya bamitali puzzle. Sibamanyi nno bano naye amanya ngalaba naye music wa sibamanyi. Mbu bamulanyo mu music waabwe. Agava ku CBS tebamukuba ne ku BBS. Of course, for me, those were just examples. Naye bw'owuliza music ennaku zino nga bw'atambula. Ebigambo ebikozesebwa kwepi charts manya biki. Kagamba I mean, is banning enough? Okubanninga music kimala oba ffe ba consumer music fe aboononefu nti ebyo twagala. Basically abayimbi batuwa betwagala tetulwa kugaanako ne tugamba tetugenda kuwuliza bintu bino. Oba I mean, tuli baddembe buli omu awulirize byayagala oba toyagala byange gwe sirika nange nawe owulirize ebyo and that kind of thing. Ng'okyogerako ekyo.
Chair, webale nnyo lumu mwami Servidde Peter yali ajuinga making a point ng'agamba nti singa yeetaaga empisa okulokolebwa aba teyeetaaga ddiini aba yeetaaga obuwanga bwa Buganda bumumala kubanga obuwanga bwa Buganda mu mpisa businga n'eddiini. Unfortunately mu kaseera kano ke tulimu Buganda obuwangwa obwo bwabula dda era ekyo bwogeddeko bwogezi. This .com generation eyagala ebintu ebyobuseegu. Let me give you an example. Oyinza ogenda ku Facebook. You just want to interact with a few people there. Ekifaananyi kye basooka okuwa kya buseegu. Ogenda ku Phoenix. Yes, ogenda ku Phoenix oyagala okusoma ku mawulire agali wano. Wakuwaka video ngo omwana ali kujja mu mpale. And in this foreign nature, you want to see what is happening. Kwegamba ebyo ebintu by'obuseegu Buganda babambi tubeebaza beebala okubyogerako naye siraba impact yabyo. Kubanga internet n'obagamba nti temubiyimbira mu Buganda bajja kuzimba bazisuleyo ku Zoom bazisuleyo wa zitrendinge. Naye nga kituufu oba obuwemu bw'obususse. Waliwo omuwala bamuyita Sindi. Banange bw'olaba ku dansi za Sindi. Mu butuufu simanyi na ekinyengi gyakyogeramu. Simanyi na ngeri yakukyogerako mu butuufu.
Era toyina ngeri gya.
Obuseegu buyitirivu mu nnyimba n'ebigambo. Waliwo oluyimba lwawuliza olw'ekisoga.
Already okyogedde. Toyina ngeri yakyogeramu already okyogedde.
Olwa campaign.
Mwefuge mukulu amalirize point. Oma malirize ensonga yo.
Oyo muyanja bw'atyo is a scientist decorum tebagirina nnyo. Waliwo ow'olusoge eyayogedde ekigambo oluyimba mbumunaasaba
Olwa campaign.
osaba ompeeku. Bannange, nalisi negamba Siche akankome wano mwami Muyanja nawe yayokola okwogera ebisingako wano bye nnina.
ebyobusengu
Kansoke ngende wa mama wange Nansha gy'oli wano wenkwetaagira.
Gyendi.
Tuli ku nnyimba abaana b'ennaku zino bye bayimba nga tusobeddwa. Tukole tutya tuzibaaninge tuziboyikootinge oba buli omu afe ku mudaala gwe ng'abasinga bwe balowooza.
Anti kaakati nze nzikiriziganya ne omukulu kye yasazeewo ezo bazibaaninge. Abaana baffe Abaganda babeera baagala okuba ennyimba nga za buseegu balina okuyiga okusabika, bazisabike bulungi nnyo mu ngeri nga
muddole ya mwana wange
bazisabike, bayige engeri y'okuzisabikamu, bazisabike baleme kwesitaza baana baffe bato. Bazisabike. Let them this is a call for them to become creative. If that's what they want, if that's what they want to represent themselves as, they need to become very creative with the way they are going to express themselves in that way, musically.
Thank you.
So nze
Sibe basoose okuyimba ku sex bana abaana b'ennaku zino. Oba lwaki tebawuliza ku nnyimba enkadde nga bwe bantu bayimba ku sex n'ebintu bye bityo. Tom, gy'oli?
Wanju Ssebo?
Ssebo tuli ku nsonga za nnyimba mu Uganda. Ezitutabuseeko tetukyasobola ziwuliriza nga tuli n'abaana.
Ate nga Museveni atunda
simanye biki.
Ate nga Museveni atunula butunuzi.
Era naye otuuseeyo.
Ng'olina omutwe muhangu ne bateriba likukwata. Ndowooza singa nze Gravity omutujja oba Lily Puzzle tekyetaagisa kubanga Katikkiro oba Obuganda bukyamu oba butuufu. Halo?
Oli Ssebo?
Tekyetaagisa kubanga Obuganda butuufu oba bukyamu. Ensonga ya survival. Abantu abawuliza ennyimba ezo era boogera olulimi Oluganda era Baganda, ate nga ekitundu kinene nnyo ku bo bassa ekitiibwa mu Bwakabaka. Now bw'abaayo omuntu mu Bwakabaka ayogedde ensonga yonna ku nnyimba zino, especially ku nnyimba zino particularly, kitegeeza ono Lily Puzzle, simanyi oli Omugeso, baali badde bakuba amavi wansi ne beetonda nga bukyali ne bava mu kino kye balimu ekyokulwanagana. Kituufu kye bakola society, kituufu society bwetyo bwefaananye evunze nti ennyimba ezizimba buli lw'oyimba oluyimba oluzimba gavumenti ng'ekuyita ng'ekuwa ssente ng'ekugamba oyimba enkudi. Ebyo bigambo bya Lily Puzzle, bigambo bya muyimbi Lily Puzzle, si byange, si byange bya Lily Puzzle. Era okukakasa kino Lily Puzzle kyayogera, Nabbanja Prime Minister wa Uganda bw'afuna omukolo tayita Sebatta, ayita Gravity omutujju, n'ayimba oluyimba kwepiica. Nabbanja n'ayogera mu mawulire ng'agamba nti nze yaŋŋamba nti oluyimba kwepiica lutegeeza kwekuba pica. Nabbanja ng'ayogera obwo bukakafu nti Lily Puzzle ebigambo byayogera birabika nga bituufu, nti gavumenti eno erabika eyagala abantu bazezengere. That aside, nze ndowooza nti Obwakabaka kye bwakoze kituufu, kubanga bugezaako okutaakiriza
Opio.
wanjisebo
Era olina kwetera ku Museveni.
olaba gwe okankanye otidde n'okwogera nti byolowooza ebyabadde Siriya bisobola okutuuka wano okankana nze nkole nti ate gwe oli wa mu nnyumba naye tofaayo nvuddeyo
tuli ku music
oyo gundi yantutteyo Pedison oyo naye kye mbadde ŋŋamba nti obwakabaka kye bwakoze kituufu buluddewo okukikola nze njagala kulowooza nti bannaddiini n'abakulembeze abalala bonna bafollowing suit batandike okukola Mayiga kye yakoze namwagadde nnyo kubanga ebintu byonoonese nina omwana waka ali mu myaka agenda mu myaka 2.3 ayimba oluyimba kwepiija ne bw'omugano ty ogenda okulaba aluyimbye kubanga alaba TV mama bw'amuwa essimu alusangako so yadde nga bano bakola ebyo ne gavumenti etuyambe ebaaninge ennyimba ezifaanana zityo kubanga obusobozi erina naye will power gyeterina kubanga ndowooza efuna mu bantu abazezengedde abantu bwe basiruwala nga tebakyategeera bwe bagamba nti ku luno Pedison yajja nga pulezidenti bajja kukkiriza bukkiriza oba mutamiivu oba si mutamiivu bagenda kukkiriza ndowooza ebyo kigikolera sirina bingi byakwogera ku nsonga eyo
yanziza Pedson. Okay, you might ban these Luganda songs because you understand the words. Now when you mazaba Jamaica, all barapa ebintu bebayimba nga bululiza mbutufu. Tugenda kubaninga paka.
Era me that's what I was going. Now me I listen to hip hop and the only thing I like in those American the hip hop music is just the beat. So but when you listen to what they're singing about, it's sex, money, and maybe money generally, their houses, their cars, and how powerful they are. But
And violence.
On the other side, I think category is really wasting his time. There's nothing that Gravity, to me, and Puzzle have done for them. They're doing their right call of duty for entertaining people. Because you see, the entertainment industry and leisure, the one that Munacharo works in, the main focus is sex. Everything rotates around sex. Entertainment, Mwenge, nightclubs, Rogers, everything around their music. All the end goal is what is sex. And these guys who are trying to say that the Gravities and Lil Puzzle are singing bad things, they're against what the entertainment industry calls for such, that even the fashion industry, everything rotates around sex. So that's
what you're telling us.
Yes, and even if you're to look at the hits in those years, and if you're to rewind, people will be singing about love. Love ends up in what? They are singing it ends up in sex and all that. So whatever the category is saying, and whoever caused the alarm, because the alarm started from, I think, National Culture Center. If you listen to that song of Gravity, it's actually not you guys. You should go and listen to it on YouTube. It's not the vulgar song that like Mikey or Mboko. So me, I think that it was unfair and maybe they are wrongly targeted. But that said, music clubs, what everything, it's just your picture. That's all about nightlife. Nightlife is like that. Sex and sex.
Thank you, Bob. I mean, Pedson. Sorry. Munachalo. Mwabali muleja ebintu byamwe byakwepicha Pedson wagambye.
si bituufu n'akamu n'akeddagala atuwaayiririza ddala era ebyaffe bya bisolo bya gundi wildlife si ebyammwe bya muyimbako.
Abadde agamba ebisulo byammwe ebya loogi mumusuza abantu bya sex.
Si bituufu, ebya sex bye bino ebyammwe,
Ebiriwa.
ebya sex bye ebyammwe bye muteekamu ne gundi simanyi babiyita batya, masaagi simanyi ani sijui ani. Ebyaffe bya kuwummulamu era bwe muba muzze ku kitiko lwakuba mwagaana mwandibadde mulaba ebifo bye tuwummuliramu ebituufu.
How many
Sabo
on
tujja.
average, Munacharo, on average, your guests say the ones that come are the singles and the couples, which one is the highest percentage?
Kibuzo ky'obuuzizza kiralamu nnyo. Sex tourism
Genda mu maaso,
gyali but ali nnyo ku cost.
tasobola akiddamu kubanga amanyi answer.
Ate nkubuulira, these are facts. Nkubuulira kubanga sinza abirimu
Banne muleke
naye
munakyayogere.
ekyoyogera sex tourism gyali yes but abeera nnyo ku cost. Zanzibar n'ebyo ebitundu ebirala Mombasa biki ebityo gyebiri nga bo bajja specifically for that. Naye ffe wano ewaffe ebintu ebisinga okuleeta wano abantu ennyo gorillas.
Do they come alone?
Wano
Do they come alone?
abasinga bajja ne bannaabwe. Abasinga bajja ne bannaabwe, abamu basanze wano as in kibeerawo. Naye back to the
it ends up in what? The end goal is what?
Tourism is
The
about
end goal is
discovering.
learning and watching the wildlife and enjoying the
Exactly, discovering what you didn't know.
Hey, totusibaako
Beyond
Nakyalo muleke
oyo
amalirize
mwonooneko.
point.
So we tuba tuzzeeyo ku nnyimba zino, I think it is high time tufuna guidance. Katikkiro yakyogeddeko yakoze bulungi but is quite late. Yakyogeddeko ng'obudde buyise ate kirungi kituyamba nti kitandise okukwatamu kuba tayito y'oluyimba olwo bannange bagiyita omunyo. Naye Pedison agamba oluyimba talabamu kizibu kyonna. Can you imagine? Lumu omwana wange yangamba, Daddy, I want to eat your banana. Mukama Katonda. Kati nga omutima ne nsimayiringe mukube nkole ki ndeekaane ngobe TV ewaka nkole ki innocently naye ffe abamu
zakuwuliriza gundi zakuyimba senga yampulira nga ni mu kuyimba Dokta munange wootoli siyala akayimba kankubya.
Exactly. Abantu bakuze kutuuka wano tebamanyi ddole wa mwana wange. Tebamanyi ddole wa mwana wange akaaba. Batukuze kutuuka wano. Naye ng'abakategeera oli akawuliriza omuntu omukulu n'agamba mbutuufu ensonga yaziggyayo zonna. I think it's high time tuyimbe ebintu ebituzzaamu. Kuba kati twatandikira simanyi kati nkudi simanyi kwepicca kati tugenze mu munyo. Tuzzaako ki?
Nakyalo weebale ssebo. Katikkiro agambe n'abazinira kwanjula balekeraawo. Bazinira mu makanzu.
Yabagamba dda naye temuwulira bano ba Pedison bano.
Kale weebale munakyalo.
Mpozi n'ekirala ne mu kyaki zammwe era bibeerayo. Ono Kasongo nga nawewe.
Era nayo otuuseeyo. Bob Joli.
Abo balala nabo balina disco yaabwe ba Kasongo. Tubateeka mu kyaki.
Bob gwolina bakazindaala.
I think nja ku uploadinga Katikkiro kubanga ye ya protectinze jurisdiction ye nti such a song it had gone too much. We don't know what will come next. Naye that said mu Buganda bawemula, okay? Boogera ebigambo ebinene but kuba Naalongo akkirizibwa okukikubawo naye ate ogamba gravity omutujju tajja kikubawo. So this is something we need to look at, nti okuwemula mu Buganda si kivve naye
nalongo tawemulira buli wamu Bob, waliwo mukolo
aha yes nakye mbadde nkugamba nti jurisdiction oba kyekyo ekigambo kitagalokofu naye so Mayiga kyengambye yakoze ekintu kirungi nti yaconfindinze nti awaayi eno radio yaffe ya Buganda ewulikika abaana bagiwulira biki abaana tebasobola kuwulira bintu bino kati protectinge naye sisobola kubeera surprised nga Mayiga bamutulukutidde ku video nga Alfabolins agenze London ali mu kuzinira ku munyo nga bagukubye mu disco. I can't be surprised kubanga music nga other people submitted music, fashion, sex sells, and it's tuli mulembe gwe tulimu gwegwo where you turn left and right, sex is just in your eyes. Ogenze omuntu ayogeddeko ogenze mu church, sex akuli maaso bwati, ogenze to shop, sex buli wodda wonna sex akuli maaso. So we cannot again kiringa bonogamba nti abaana bo bajjewo bateeke ku island edda batugamba nga tujja gendanga mu nsozi eyo abakkiriza tubeere eyo tweyawule kwegamba as long as omwana wo akyali mu space eno where all these things exist, you need to go beyond just banning in your space kubamanya yes kati olubaninze ku CBS ne gundi NBS enalubaninga. So okujjako nga it has become a national wide nga bwe babaninga embo kuba yali mboko luyimba ethics navayo minister ethics ne UCC ne bivayo ne bibaninga as a whole. Nay, as long as we still have people like full figure being presidential advisors nga babakwasa akazindaalo mu kamera bakubawo agagambo bwe gati naye beebo omukulu basembeza bagambye nti ono yampa amagezi yampabula ku bavubuka. So these are things we really have to think through as a nation. Naye nga Katikkiro nga ye ya protectinze space ye neyejjako omusango nti Katikkiro n'atavaayo wadde kubaako kyayogera yalaze nti okay ffe mu space eno tetwencouraginga kino, but remember there is a whole other space out there that where these songs are going to be played and no one is going to stop them from being played. So to protect your kids, or okubayigiriza the reality of life, and such that when they go outside Buganda, they can still not be taken up by these. We tell them the reality. The comment you are getting.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Bob. Isaiah? Enkudi, kwepicha, simanya omunyo, simanya biki. Katikkiro kye yakoze kinabeera na impact really. Tulina radio station mu Uganda simanyi ziri mmeka naye CBS bwe banninga ne BBS ate abalala. Is it also market we demanding ebyo byakusiriwala? Abibawayo oyinza okumunenya because oluusi nga businessman market ogiwa kyeyagala. Gwe atunyumiza kakira atanywa sukaali.
Anti kakati moderator gwe ewuawo woli awo leero onoggalawo oba toggalewo?
Nja kuggalawo ssebo.
Bw'onooba oggaddewo ojja kuba olemesezza okubba awalala.
Nedda.
Ojja kuba gwe oggadde ewuwo. Kati Katikkiro kye yakoze, Katikkiro ye kabaka w'Abaganda ow'ebweru. Era ebigambo by'ayogera abyogera ku lwa mukama we kabaka. Kati Abaganda bo bagaddewo enzigi zaabwe ku nsonga y'enkudi, ku nsonga y'omunyo n'ebirala. Era tusaba ow'e Busoga, oba mpulidde wano Dr. Mukwana nga naye alaajana. Era tusaba Katuukiro ow'e Busoga naye aggalewo.
Ne Emorimori.
Emorimori ow'Abatoomu naye aggalewo. Ne Lukirabasayija ow'Ettoolo naye aggalewo. N'ow'e Bukonjo Mumbere naye aggalewo. Ekyo kye tusaba moderator. kubanga bw'oggalawo ewuwo oba tolemeseza babbi walala naye buli muntu aggalewo ewuwe kye tusaba ekyo moderator era Katikkiro mukongulajuleetinga yakoze bulungi ekyo kye kisooka moderator ekyokubiri biri Ssebatta yayimba ddole w'abaana owulidde ensonga eyo yamuyimba ekisooka wano wenjagala abantu bategeere bulungi nnyo kuba kati ngenze mu art industry yayimba ddole w'abaana ng'ali mu kuadressinga marital sexual problem oba waliwo alaba gye ndaga liri puzzle bwe yayimba enku yali taadressinga a marital sexual problem yali adressinga promiscuity part of sex kati nga tetunona kutuuka kukubikkako twagala kumanya what problem are you addressing omuyimbi ateeka okuba nga ali mu kuadressinga a social problem kakati kikyamu nnyo kwogo omutendera ogusooka okugeraageranya enkudi n'eddole w'omwana kati ekisooka wano wenjagala okubuuliza liri puzzle musajja wange nnyo musajja mugezi njagenda kumutuukako wenjagala osobola okubuuliza enkudi yali adressinga problem ki era yagiwaako magezi ki awo muntegedde kubanga mu ddole w'omwana Ssebatta yali alina problem gy'adressinga n'agiwaako n'amagezi ekyo kyekisooka ekyekyokubiri ekyokusatu ndi mu ati gwe liri puzzle oli artist naawe Gravity oli artist ye kiki ekiri artistic ku kigambo omunyo kubanga labayo waliwo ensi oba ya Belgium Bob nsi ki erina omusambi ayina erinnya nga lya kikula ky'abakazi
tiimu Arsenal gyeyadde esamba gy'ekiro Switzerland.
Yo lisoundinga ng'eriva mu Rwanda
ligwa nnyo nnyo eno mu Uganda kakati gwe bw'oba oyagala kuyimba bw'oba oyagala kuyimba ekyo ekitundu ky'abakazi ekyo n'okozesa oyo omusambi oluyimba olwo n'oluyimbira mu Uganda tobeera artistic there is no art in that why kiri plain tewaliwo art kwe kuddira ekintu ekyo ekyekikyala erinnya lyo omusambi n'okiyita ddole so si kunoonya kintu kisawundinga nga kyo kati gwe Gravity ne bw'ogamba nti ekigambo omunyo si kya Luganda bw'okiyimbira mu Buganda kibeera kya Luganda that is not art kati gwe va mu industry fuluma mangu
agende ku street akubaka tayimbwa sebo
agenda bulijjo mbeera wano ngambagamba nti abantu bangi bayingirira emirimu gy'abannaabwe ensonga lwaki nkyogeza maanyi kubanga nze omu ku bantu abayingirirwa muto wange Serubide tali wano buli kaseera bw'aba ayagala okunvuma amanyi okuŋŋamba twabadde tuwuliriza musumba munno Kakande ng'ali mu kunvuma
kugamba Kakande Gravity w'abasumba
actually bato bange babiri abatera okunvuma bwe batyo Pedison wamu ne Peter njagala kuba baloopera era Pedison balina okundikira message n'aŋŋamba mbu you are OB you are colleague ng'andaga mu jjiimu naye babeera baagala kunvuma bwewawulya nga baagala
neguna guyinzisi gubadde gubyogerako wano gusiru
bonna banvuma naye ekinvumya bwe kityo lwa nsonga nange ndi victim ow'abantu abayingira mu mirimu gy'abannaabwe kakati moderator eyo problem. Now problem esembayo yeno muddeyo muwulirize interview ya Lili Puzzle gye yasooka okukola. Aliongo agimisrepresent nze kubanga Aliongo buli kaseera bayagala kulumba taata wange. Agimisrepresent nze ng'agamba mbu Lili Puzzle yagamba mu gavumenti esasula abayimbi bano okuyimba bino ebiyimba ebyobuwemu. Nedda si bwe yagamba, muddeyo mugiwulirize. Yagamba nti nayimbadde ebintu eby'amagezi nga sifuna ssente, ng'abayimba eby'ekisiru bafuna ssente. Naga ne ku mikolo gya gavumenti tebayita Sebatta eyayimba nkumbi eyamba, bayita Gravity n'ayimba okwepiikya. Bwe nakubye enkudi yafuuse hit, naye nayimba dda, nayimba ku kusoma, nenyimba genda ogule emmotoka, nenyimba ebigezo byonna byonna nga tewali andaba, nali nfiiriddeyo. Kaakati ekizibu kirabika tekiri ku Gravity ne Lili Puzzle. Ekizibu kiri kuba consumer. Kati njagala okunzika nga mbabuuza, waba mu ssimu yo mulimu buyimba ki? Lyrics zigamba ki? Musule bulungi.
Yayimba enkudi n'alinyirawo ennyonyi paka London.
Kye nababuuza wali nti oba market banaye byeyagalira. Kubanga omusajja atunda sukaali ye tanywa sukaali, naye market eyagala sukaali. Bano abasajja tubanenye engalo batulekamuko.
Your entertainment is like that. That's why it's even
Njagala okuwulira ku playlist ya Pedison.
hey, that's why you see and the shows they're always there at night. At night.
Baina bayisaawo ekiro ky'ogamba.
Not if you are chiro, as in entertainment is for night. It's for night.
Sebo waliyo nezadde. Waliyo nezadde Sebo.
Anyway.
From Nacharo, next week, want statistics of your guests, the ones that come when they are single.
Musule bulungi mwe tunaddamu ku Monday.
Okay.